Welcome to another episode of the Future Dreamers podcast. And this is part of my Starlight project, which is really like one of the craziest things I've ever done to just like go out and create an astrology software. It has definitely been a growth journey in so many ways. Sometimes I can't even believe that I did it, but I did do it. And I'm excited to announce that we are back in development at Starlight, and we are including a bunch of cool new features that I'll tell you about in some other snippet here or there. But today, what I wanted to talk about is something near and dear to my heart, which is what can you even do with astrology? I know there are millions of people on the internet who love astrology, read about it all the time, and read all kinds of different people's opinions about it. But as I've been finding, as I've been speaking to more real people who are using astrology, or rather wanting to use astrology for something, one of the things that I've been finding is that they have the common theme is that they have a hard time actually figuring out how to put it into practice in their lives, how to actually do something tangible with it. And so I wanted to record an episode that really kind of like tackles that subject of what is astrology beyond just this interesting, fun thing to read on Instagram. My dog is really deciding he wants to run all over the floor and use his little claw nails to make some noise. I have no idea if you're hearing that. So, astrology is everywhere these days, but I find one thing kind of lacking, which is clear guidance on how to use it. How do you actually take this magical sky clock, as it were, and actually use it to do something tangible in your life to affect an outcome, to affect big outcomes? And I think we live in such an interesting time in the world because so many people are coming out of the closet, believing in magic, doing magic in their own lives. Gosh, there are people all over the place just doing magic out in the open, all over the internet, it's all over the world. And it's a beautiful thing to see because, as we all know, many, many, many thousands, some say millions of women have been killed all over the world for practicing their intuitive gifts. And when I think about magic as a topic, which I kind of lump in with astrology, although there's many facets of magic, and I think astrology is one way you can grow your magic. If I were to define a definition of magic for myself, it would be how can I affect outcomes in my own life in the real world in the 3D by aligning myself with nature and then asking nature to work with me to affect those outcomes. And so that's just my own personal definition. Nobody needs to agree with me, but that's kind of how I go about it in my own life. How can I get into alignment with what's best for me and then make intentions for an outcome that reflects the dream state that I want to be living in? And then how can I take action in my own life to create the conditions for that to arise, knowing there's this magic X factor of, the universe, the creative force that is the reason that we're all here. And so it's so fascinating to see people just out in the world figuring out how to do magic together when for thousands of years just communication bandwidth didn't exist to like transmit this knowledge across large groups of people. So that's just a whole fascinating side topic that I would love to bring on a good witch sometime to talk about. I have a few people in mind. But so where does astrology fit into this? Well, I think we are living in a time when the world is really calling us to find and garden our individuality. Individuality that benefits the collective, not individuality in some, egoic or narcissistic sense. Individuality in the sense that each of us truly has unique characteristics that can be gardened to the highest level if we have some kind of guidance. And that is where I think astrology is such a cool tool. But you kind of have to know how to use it if you want to like put it to use for the highest effect in your life. And so that's really been my mission with Starlight, is to build tools that will make it make sense to everybody so that everyone can be off in their own world, cultivating their individuality using that cultivated individuality to benefit their own lives and satisfy them and gratify them. But as they experience what comes into your life when you truly know who you are and you've locked it in and you've solidified it and you're creating from that place, and then you start to use that, you start to show up in your own relationships as that true version of you, and you start to work in group settings and as that true version of you, and then you start to make sense of the world, that true version of yourself. And then you start to create your own abundance through the creative works you're doing that may become your job, or a business you create that is like connected to the foundation of yourself that you have been growing as roots throughout the course of your life as you learn many lessons and go through different cycles in life. And then by creating a well of abundance for yourself through knowing who you really are versus who everybody else is or who the world may be telling you to be. If you've gone through enough cycles of learning who you are, then you can let go of the compulsion to conform to others' standards. And you have the discernment and the inner strength to continue being yourself, no matter what other people are saying, whether they get it or not. And to continue refining who you are as you learn to enact your own inner voice and then bring that forward into your real world. And where I think the cool thing, the cool piece, and this is kind of the 11th house in astrology. If you're an astrology nerd, then you know what I'm saying. But once you garden yourself and you gather your inner riches, and then your outer world starts to reflect back to you abundance that mirrors your inner riches, then you have all of this ability to contribute to the betterment of the collective. And that is why I think it is so important in this time that we truly become ourselves. Not just because it's good for us, but because in this era of human evolution, I think it's really important that we contribute our individuality, the gifts that come from flowering our individuality, to the collective. Because as we are firmly in the meta crisis, there's so much to clean up that it's going to require such a myriad and plethora of individual skills. And those people are going to need to know how to work in groups and form coherent group cohorts who can tackle big challenges and bring deep wells of their own inner knowledge and real world experience that reflects their individual genius to the table in masses of people. So to kind of wrap up this topic, what do I think astrology can really do for you in your real life besides entertain you on your Instagram? And it's a healthier topic to pay attention to than a lot of things on the internet. But if I were to try and succinctly make a plug for what I think the purpose of astrology is, it is a guidance system that's tied to math, geometry, astronomy, a guidance system that allows us to see through the chaos of the outer world that we live in and get a glimpse of how to garden our inner world and truly unfurl every petal of our individuality so that we can live it in our real worlds and gain satisfaction, gratification, and abundance through doing that. And as we turn into that holistic, integrated version of our deepest individual, unique spark, that is magic. And then you start to see other people doing that in your environment. And wherever anybody in your world is on their journey of becoming a fully unfurled human, or who knows, some people might opt out of that in this life. You just start to see the beauty of everybody's journey. And I think that adds an entire extra thick pancake layer of beauty and magic as you walk through the world. Because certainly, as we know, being a human is complicated, very difficult much of the time. It can be sad. And it can just be traumatic to watch it all go down. And so, evolution and love, evolution through love, I think is, one of the general purposes of what we're all doing here together. And I just think to myself so often how amazing it would be if we could actually all see each other as the truest, highest versions of ourselves. And I'm nearly certain that one day the world will look like that on a broad scale. But while we're working on getting there, we have to start somewhere. And so the best place to start is with yourself. While you kind of imagine that dream state of a future world, because I think it's always good to have a magnetic story to pull you through whatever phase and season you're in. So yeah, I think I was trying to be succinct there. I'm usually never successful at that. But I am very passionate about becoming myself. There are many decades I spent not doing that. And so I've been doing a little bit of catch up in the last 10 years. And so I'm just crazy passionate about building tools that help people see themselves and then actually use astrology as a guidance system through the seasons of their lives, whether it be a day or 10 years or the entirety of their lives. Get some concrete clues as to how they can actually garden themselves to become the most beautiful flower that they can be. So that's just a teeny weeny little talk about what I think astrology can do in our real lives. And so check out Starlight if you haven't already, and look out for the Starlight Method, which is the companion course I'm building to support people who are truly excited about personal transformation. And just get really jazzed on the topic of like alchemizing pain they have, alchemizing trauma that they've gone through to like find gold, from it and really start living the life that they know that they deserve to live. And so astrology is just a guidance system of how to get there. And so, yeah, check out all of that stuff. And if you haven't booked an Astro Chat with me, if you're seeing this episode anytime recently to when I'm recording it, I'm offering free 1-hour Astro Chats. It helps me get to know how you are using astrology and build better tools to help people do that. Thank you so much for listening if you made it to this point, and I will speak to you soon. Toodles.